Welcome to section 14. In this first video, let's talk about the Cinema Spice presets that I am giving you for free included with this course. There's quite a bit of them, and you should have them already downloaded. If not, there should be a link to download the zip file with including all of them. So let's talk about the presets. The first one I want to talk about is long shadows. So I've got all these presets here in this nice folder, and drag long shadows, drop it right on top of my text. And there we have long shadows. I can change the angle. I can change the length of the shadow. So I can make it kind of look like a 3D text. Change the opacity. I can also add some feather to it. So how this feather works is there's the feather amount and the feather position, which is where along the length of the shadow it's positioned, and then the angle. By default, it's set to be perpendicular with the shadow, but if you want it to have an angle something different, well, we can do that. And then we add the feather amount, and then there's some feather to the shadow. Okay. That is long shadows. I can also come in here and, of course, change the color and all of that. Okay. Next, let's talk about sequencer. So what sequencer does is let's grab, say, some text, right? And let's grab a new null object. And we're going to apply the sequencer to that null object. And there's a completion, overlap, ease in and out, and then the number of sliders. So I'm going to take this text layer, duplicate it a couple of times, and then open up the scale. So I just hit S on the keyboard and brings up the scale. Now we've got 3 layers, so I need to make 3 sliders. I'm going to lock this layer so it stays up here, and then I'm going to pick whip with expressions each of these to those sliders. So scale 1, hold down Option, Alt, click on the stopwatch, and we're just going to do this to all of them. And what this does is it's going to sequence the animation that I just did, the scale, one, and then the other, and then the other. I can have here, let's say, like a 50% overlap. And what that's going to do is when this one is 50% scaled, the next one's going to start like that. And then ease in, ease out. 50 is no easing. We go to that side, it's going to ease in. And then speed at the end. So let's go ahead and just keyframe this. Keyframe the slider. Go to the end, and then let's take a look at this. See how it eased? And then we go ease out. Then it slows down at the end. So that's the difference. And you can have as many of these sliders here, 1, 2, 3. So as many layers as you want to be able to sequence. You can create some really cool animations that way. So that is sequencer. Let's talk about the repeater. Now, if you, like I showed in shape layers, there is a repeater in there, but it only works with shape layers. So I have built my own repeater like the shape layer, but it can be on any layer. So this is a text layer. Text layers don't have a repeater built in, so let's grab the repeater, drop it on there, and then what we do is we take that and we duplicate it as many times as we want. So let's do 5, go to the original one, and this is where we change the position. So I can change the position, rotation, pretty cool. That is the repeater. Next up is tween, and this is kind of cool, and it's very similar to the repeater but works differently. So what I'm going to do with this one is let's do text again. Tween, duplicate that one here at the end, and then one in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this in its own composition. So Command-Shift-C, bring a new composition. And let's go into that composition. I'm going to just name these. One on top and the one in the middle I'm going to call mid. So tween goes on the layer in the middle, and I can make these 3D. So let's add tween to the middle one, and it kind of moved around. But that's fine, because what I need to do is in this controllers, we have the from layer, the to layer, and then the control layer. So on the from, we go from 1, we go to number 2, and we keep the control layer on tween mid. And then there's a number of other layers and the rig position inbox. The other layers, it shows how many other layers that aren't a part of this rig, and the rig is the one on this end and that end and in the middle. So if you've got a background layer or a camera or something like that, you need to add those up, put that in the number of other layers. And the rig position is where this first layer starts. That's on start 1, so we have that on 1. If for any reason you need it down in the stack and other layers on top of it, you can switch it there. And so what this does is, it's really kind of cool. It tweens from one to the other. So let me take this mid one and duplicate it several times. And then I'm going to take both of these and rotate. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to a custom view so we can see what's going on. Now, if I take just one of these and rotate it, everything in between will kind of bend. And I take the first one, you see that? That's cool. I can even change the size, position. So it's almost like having a deck of cards that you're, shooting from one hand to the other. Really kind of a cool. So that is tween. All right, next is typist. And I've already used this a couple of times, but I just thought I would show you one more time how it works. So we'll take it, drag it, drop it on. And if I just play, we've got this kind of blinking cursor. Now with this typist, make sure that your paragraph is set to left justify. Otherwise it's going to look funny. Then we keyframe the typing sweep, go forward in time, and we have it type over. And then it looks like a little computer that's typing. So options we have for this is if we want a horizontal cursor or a vertical one, or turned off completely. So that is typist. And then simple typist, same thing, but it's not going to have, I've got a start slider. I also have the end slider if you want to do things a little bit differently. But let's keep these at 100. And then you sweep it across. It's just real simple. It's not going to have the cursor. That's the difference with that one. But what I can do with this one that I can't with the other one, the cursor for some reason makes things all weird, is I can come in here and change fonts halfway through. And so if you've got different sizes, different fonts you want, then the simple one's the way that you need to go with that one. That is simple typist. Next, let's talk about our vignettes. I've got two vignettes, a vignette and a vignette light. They do pretty much the same thing. The vignette normal has more options, but it's a little bit more to process. And the vignette light, well, it has less options. So let's go ahead and just drop that right on our background. So there it is. Let's go into the radius. I can bring the radius in or out. I can change the feather amount, the opacity. I can change the color. Now here's something cool. If I want it to go to white, well, it's not going to go on normally, and I can change the transfer mode to screen. So if you needed to have a white vignette for any reason. Now I have this XY scale, so I can, this is easier to see. If there's no feather, I can scale the width in or the height to kind of really get the shape I want. So that is the vignette. Let's go ahead and delete that, and let's do the vignette light, which looks pretty much the same, but it's based off of CC Spotlight, and I can change the cone angle here, or the height, edge softness. There's just not as much options to it, but it is going to render a lot faster. And then next, or last, let's talk about Wiggly. Drag it, drop it on, and let's scale this up so we can see it. Kind of has a chalk outline look. And let's render through a few of these frames. So it's kind of wiggling around. I can change the wiggle amount and take off the chalk lines, and it's not going to do much. Let's bring that wiggle amount 100, really a lot. It's wiggling around. Turn back on the chalk lines. I can change the color, and that is wiggle. So next I want to show you Kinetic, and this is an After Effects template. So I'm going to just drag it, drop it right in. And if we look in there, I've got uppercase, lowercase, numbers, a menu, and some solids. So if we go into the uppercase, let's just double click on that. And what it is it's a pre-animated letter, already animated for you. So that's pretty cool. So let's go into the menu and see what we can do with this. Here it is. There's a bunch of them already on here. And then everything's kind of animating. But what's cool about this, let's go down here to the master control. Let's go into the effects control. I've got 3 different themes, and I can change all sorts of different stuff. So fill enabled. We take off the fill. Well, then there's nothing, but we can put a stroke on. We can change the stroke color. We can turn on the fill, change the fill color. So that's pretty cool. Now let's talk about these different themes. The first one, right on, which is everything's going to write on like this. Okay. Next one is twisty scale, and you have to turn off the one and turn back on the other. You can't have both checked at the same time. There is twisty scale. Let's watch that in full motion. Okay. And then bouncy scale, which is kind of like a balloony bounce. Let's take a look at that. So that is Kinetic. And let's go back in. We've got numbers 1 through 9, letters, uppercase, and lowercase. So really kind of a cool thing to use, and everything's all animated for you.